Thank you for joining us. We are at the Imperial Center in downtown Rocky Mount, and if you have not been to Shaggin for Shelter, you need to come this year, because I came last year for the first time. So I'm coming this year. It is so much fun, but even more than having a good time, you're supporting an entity that really looks after people in our community. The United Community Ministries Executive Director Chris Battle here, and Melissa Barker, who is fundraiser, volunteer.
She's board chair.
Wonderful.
Now.
Board chair.
Just currently taking over. And Wall left.
Well,
and so they
congratulations.
Just slipped me into the to that seat.
Good decision, huh, Chris?
Yeah.
The date, how people can get tickets.
The date is February 28th here at the Imperial Center from 6:30 to 10 o'clock. We have mailed invitations, but we have a lot we can hand out. We have some at Almonds Drugs, and we have some at the Bassett Center, which you can get those by calling 985-0078.
And anytime come into Almonds, we will have them, and we'll just be collecting money. It's a non-profit, so people can write a check, as you did with the honor cards.
Yes, most definitely.
And please come. It's really fun to see people that you bump into around town and see them dance. Some are better than others.
Right, and your husband is wonderful.
He's very good, but it's fun, and I'm not nearly as good as he is. He just said I stand still and do my thing and let him look good. But it is a lot of fun. It's a way to mix with people who really care. There were last year some things that people could purchase also.
Right. We'll have a raffle and a silent auction, and the local merchants have been fabulous with their donations. We have stuff from gardeners. We have stuff from I'm trying to wrap my brain. We have something for Almonds for sure. We have something from Amy's Hallmark. We have Chick-fil-A has always been gracious in donating. So we have a lot of things. We also have a mountain vacation home. We have beach trips. We have artwork. Local artists have been fabulous. And we just have a lot of items, more this year than last year.
Wow.
So
wonderful.
We are really looking forward. And it's $35. We have Gardener's Barbecue. They're doing their pig picking.
So it's
local.
Get to eat too.
Yes, you do. You do. And the board of directors this year are making the desserts. So you're going to get home cooked desserts also.
Wonderful. Well, Chris, I've really been concerned with the cold weather we've had. I know the Bassett Center is always filled to capacity for children, families, moms, and sometimes dads too with their children, but always a waiting list there.
Yeah, that is correct.
But how has the weather, I mean, I even heard like in Durham and all that they had to turn people away.
Well, we didn't get to the point we had to turn people away. What I'm hoping is that people found other arrangements with family members or people that they normally would not live with, but for that night. But what we did was we made arrangements at our local shelter on McDonald Street was to make arrangements with cots for any individuals or even families that were in need of assistance for that night. As many as we could fit in that particular area, we would bring in. And I think we brought in about 6 to 8 people during that period of the extreme cold. We wanted to make it available, so we did. I think it was mentioned in the newspaper. But what happens is, unfortunately, when you're calling the Bassett Center on a regular basis and you know you're either on a waiting list or you know we're full and you know the shelter's typically full, your thoughts are, why call them tonight? What's different between now? And I think that could have been what had happened as far as people may have not had a place to go, didn't call because we were full and felt that we might not be able to make accommodations. What I do believe is that they found accommodations again with maybe family, friends, or whatever. But we really, that's just a situation we don't want to see happen here in Rocky Mount, where we're not able to provide some sort of shelter for people in need. We're talking extreme cold. Who knows? This summer might be extreme hot. So we're going to make sure that we make the same arrangements. And again, we want to partner. Again, this is United Community Ministries providing this. We want to reach out to local churches and different organizations so that we can broaden that shelter. We want to work with local churches so that when somebody calls us, yes, we're full. Yes, our shelter will be able to accommodate a few people, but what community do you live in, or where are you right now? They may say, well, I'm over on Thomas Street or wherever. Well, there's a church that we work with, and they're opening their doors tonight for people that are in need of shelter. Here's the number, or contact this person. That's the type of communication that I would like to develop and relationship I like to build with churches, so that when this situation happens again, we won't be the only one that people have to turn to. We'll be able to help in other directions and not have somebody try to come all the way to us just to have a night to stay when they can reach, hopefully, a faith base or a church in their community.
Chris, I think it's important for people to know how much you do with helping to rebuild lives. The people who come there, you work with them. It used to be that there weren't programs in place. Now you've got programs in place to rebuild lives and help people really be able to get back and have meaningful lives once they leave the homeless shelter too.
That's exactly right, and it's amazing that you mentioned that. I was at the shelter on McDonald Street yesterday, and a young lady came through the door, and she said, "Do you remember me?" And I see so many people over the years. Make a long story short, she was there back in 2008. She had been at the Raleigh Rescue Mission, still having hard times, finally came to us and decided to make a change. And that was sort of right when the programming piece was in place, but she just wanted to let us know how well she was doing. She was had been clean and sober for over 4 years now. She wanted to just let us know that she was doing well. That was great. She just stopped by yesterday. But that's part of why we put that piece in place, so that we can help empower people and help them through that process of recovery, which we know the great majority of our residents at that location are suffering with. So that was really important for us to add Narcotics Anonymous classes and group meetings and things of that nature. So we're seeing the success. It comes back from time to time. I'll say, somebody say, "Hey, Mr. Bowder, you changed my life," and I'm quick to let them know it wasn't me. It was you. We just was able to be a part of that. So that gives me joy. It gives me another 6 months. You get one person.
And I want to have Melissa tell you again, because we can help. They need funds. There are all these mouths to feed. They have utilities like we all do. And so the
28th of February, it's a Friday evening, from 6:30 to 8, from 6:30 to 10 here at the Imperial Center. We will be serving dinner from 7 to 8:30 with your $35 entrance fee.
Great. And the tickets are available at the Bassett Center or at Almonds, and we will see you there. We're going to take a break now, and then 3 very well-known local ministers are going to talk about their commitment and as ministers and what their churches and they can do, and share some empowering thoughts with all of us. Stay tuned.
Are you just starting out on your own and want to be independent? Do you have a family and need a bigger home? Are the kids moving out? And are you downsizing? First Carolina Realty can help. A 1 or 2 bedroom apartment or house for those starting out. A 3 or 4 bedroom home for a growing family. Rentals, sales, new homes, pre-owned homes, investment property in the city or in the country. Call First Carolina Realty. Now is a good time to make that move. Real estate prices are right, interest rates are low, and there is a fantastic selection of homes available. First Carolina Realty is a full-service licensed real estate firm with offices located at 1100 West Thomas Street, open 9 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. If you have rental properties and are tired of the headaches associated with managing them yourself, or if you're looking for a new management team to manage your rental properties, call First Carolina Realty at 252-985-2321. Visit our webpage at firstcarolinarealty.com. We will gladly help you with all your real estate needs.
Hi, I'm Jean Almond of Almonds Drugs, and I want to invite you to be Almonds customer for your prescriptions. Our average pharmacy wait for your prescription is only 10 to 15 minutes. We have drive-through windows at both locations. We will deliver your prescription free. Our friendly and very experienced pharmacists specialize in consultation, and we are locally owned and have been a loyal part of your community for over 70 years. Just make one phone call to us and we'll make the transfer so we can start taking care of you. Welcome back. We are now, you've learned about how dire the situation of homelessness is in our area. But now I want to introduce to you, and you probably know these gentlemen, but they are ministers in our community who have made a commitment to really arm their congregations to bring the power of the pulpit, the power of the love of the Lord to bear to help us deal with homelessness. Pastor James Galliard, Senior Pastor at Ward Tabernacle. We've got Bishop Shelton Daniel, who is the Bishop and the Minister at Greater Joy, and Reverend Dennis Starville, who is the Minister at First Baptist Church. And gentlemen, I've spoken with all of you separately, together and whatnot, and James, I know you and Shelton went to the Night Out for Homelessness and really were surprised at what you learned that maybe you hadn't heard about, the situation with 600 children in our area who are homeless. But I want to just kind of throw it out, and James, why don't you jump in first and talk about what you see the role of the faith community in your churches in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the problem is really staggering and shocking because it's an invisible community. We don't typically walk down the street and see homeless people, and the thought that there are 600 kids that go to school at Edgecombe County Public Schools or Nash County Public Schools that are going to school from a homeless environment is just staggering. You know, how we expect those children to learn, how we expect them to be developed. And I think this is really where we come in as the faith community, where we come in terms of our churches. And so I think step one is just a matter of awareness, just recognizing that this is indeed a problem. This is happening in our backyard, in our city, in our community, and we have a collective responsibility to be able to address it. So I think the first piece of it in terms of our awareness is being addressed. But then the issue becomes, how then do we address this issue? And I think that's where we can really be effective in terms of the faith community. One of the things that I really want to encourage those who are listening is that it's not just simply a matter of throwing money at a problem. And so oftentimes we assume that, if we just write the check, it'll be fine, it'll work itself out. And even though the money is very, very helpful, the reality of it is there's a collective amount of resources that need to be brought to bear. And so, for example, what do we do to prevent homelessness? And so some of those solutions are around better educating people so they can get their GED, providing low-income housing, providing environments for families. And so we need to be looking collectively as a community to be able to say, what resource do I have that I can bring to bear on this solution? So as we begin talking about this, I want to ask those of you that are listening to begin thinking about your resources. Is there a vacant property that we can help make available, that we can help renovate? Is there a skill set that we can introduce to a body of people that will help them? Do I own a company where there may be some possibilities of employment for people and opportunities for children and young people? And so, do I have, it could be something as simple as a family has, a mother or a father has been offered a job, but maybe that job is out in the county and it's 25 miles away and they have no public transportation, no ability to get to that job. It could be that someone is listening with a second or third car that's just sitting in the side of a garage or side of a parking lot saying, you know what, I could donate this vehicle to a single mom or to a person. So I think all of us, if we started looking around our homes and our churches and our communities, we're going to start to see that we have a lot of resources to bear. And so, the starting point for me is, what resource can you offer to lend itself to this solution? And I'm sure Bishop Daniel and Pastor Dennis have some other thoughts around that. But what thoughts do you have, Shelton, in terms of what can collectively happen, say, in South Rocky Mount or in the area that you pastor?
Well, one of the major pieces, Gene and James and Dennis, is, first of all, I think we have to mobilize the faith-based community. There are just 3 churches here represented, but there's so many churches in Rocky Mount. But again, and my message has been to everyone, this issue is not just a South Rocky Mount issue. This is a Rocky Mount issue. So with it being a Rocky Mount issue with tons of churches, faith-based organizations, one of the other steps, James, I think we can take is if we can get our churches, if we can get churches from the Anglo and the Black community come together and let's talk about the resources that we have. We have all kinds of things available in our community, in our churches, and one of the places where we get the most voice is in the church. So in both sides of this, if we could just get the faith base together and just sit down and have a conversation about what things are available.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the other pieces, I think. Dennis?
Well, about a month ago, James and I were having breakfast together, Pastor James, and he mentioned to me the severity of the problem in our community, the number of families that are homeless, in particular the children, and it's cost me some sleepless nights. And so Gene has circled back around and kept me aware, and so we just had lunch together, and we just put our prayers together, our thoughts together, thinking, well, is this our responsibility? And clearly the answer is, at least in part, it is.
It is.
You'd have to have your head in the sand not to realize that the church historically for 2,000 years, whether it's on this continent or another, didn't take the responsibility and the ownership for people in trouble. Whether it was abandoned children, whether it was homelessness, whether it was educational issues, it takes no time at all to see that for 2,000 years the church says we need to start an orphanage because we need to care for children. We need to start hospitals because we need to care for the sick. We need to start universities and colleges because we need to educate people. So the church has always played a role in social issues, community issues. This is not entirely, not even primarily, a political issue. This is a human issue. This is not a black and white issue. This is not a Republican Democratic issue. This is do you care issue.
Right.
So, I'm just thinking about this and the awareness, and quite frankly, I'm thankful that James has made me aware. Jesus looks out at the crowds in the Gospels, and it says of him, Matthew says of him, that he saw the people as sheep without a shepherd, and he felt compassion. When you see what's going on in our community, when you're made aware of what's going on in our community, over 600 children with no place to lay their head in a consistent way each and every night, where they can get 3 squares a day, a warm shower, clean sheets, and be surrounded by contagious affection, people that love them and care for them. This is clearly a church issue. So I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I'm going to walk with these men and this lady and many others in this community, and I'm going to do whatever it is the Lord would have us do. Might I just throw one other example?
Sure.
I don't know how many in our television audience would know this, but a few years ago, I know, James, you and I have talked about this, and Shelton, I don't remember if you and I have talked about this or not. There's a pastor in Birmingham, Alabama named David Platt. David Platt was told that in Birmingham that the social services departments were overrun with a desperate need to care for children. Homelessness was rampant. So he motivated his congregation, and they went to the social services of Birmingham, Alabama. I think I have my facts right on this. And said, how large is your problem? They gave him the number. He said, our church will take care of it. And they did.
Wow.
Pastor David Platt motivated his entire congregation to say, you're retired, you're an empty nester, bring these children into your home. You're a young couple that, for whatever reason, in the providences of God, actually I got this idea from James, you've not been able to conceive and have children. This is a wonderful opportunity to adopt.
Right.
In other words, the answers to the problems in our community, I think, can largely, if not entirely, be addressed by the church, faith-based community.
Yeah, and I know that's probably the theme of this show right now relative to the issue of homelessness and even hunger. And we're not suggesting that it's it should be exclusively owned by the faith community.
Right.
But when you talk about 340 churches or whatever the number is in the Rocky Mount community, easily, if we brought our collective resources to bear, there's no way that we could not put a significant dent in this problem. If you think about just the issue of low-income housing, if we had 100 churches, as an example, 100 churches that say, you know what, we're going to identify a vacant property in and around our community, or our church, and we're going to take ownership to renovate. We're going to do a church-based missions project just within our church. We're going to renovate this 1,000 square foot property. We're going to put our resources in it, and then we're going to make that home available to one of these families. I mean, if you just do the numbers, if there's 600 homeless kids out there, several of them are going to be a part of the same family. if 100 churches did that, we provided 100 low-income homes, we could probably take care of 300 or 400 of these kids. I mean, literally, just like that. As a matter of fact, I mean, this is going to air in the month of February. We could get this done by Easter. I mean, literally, we could make that commitment and say we can get this thing done. And then we could really challenge the remainder of the community to say, now look, you know, we put a big dent in this thing, come alongside of us. Or while we're doing that, you know, let the retail association, the food industry, whatever your industry is, the healthcare industry. I mean, think about it, the healthcare implications of this. If a person doesn't have a warm place to lay their head, if they don't have the ability to cleanse themselves, eventually they're going to find themselves in a place where they're sick, where they're going to need care, health care. So I think we could easily argue that this is a public health issue. I think that could be argued pretty easily. And so it would be entirely appropriate for a physician or a nurse or a hospital or whatever that industry professional was in healthcare to take a hold of this kind of issue, because easily this is a public health issue. And so we can fix this problem in Rocky Mount. We have an opportunity to do it. And we just want to make the encouragement, whatever your walk of life is, whatever your area is, to come alongside the great work that Chris Battle and his staff does throughout his agencies, so that we can really come alongside him and help fix this issue.
Right, and Richard Joyner, Pastor Richard Joyner, says on a regular basis he sees people at Nash Healthcare who don't want to be released from the hospital because they have nowhere to go. And when you run into, and I've done a lot of interviews with teachers throughout the community, and they say these poor little kids come in and they're very feisty because that's the only way they've been able to survive, is by fending for themselves, because nobody hugs them and loves them, and that's breeding ground for crime in our community too. Beyond the healthcare part, there a lot of the crime that we see in here because kids are out on the street and they have not had good role models.
And you know, James hit another good point, and we were having a conversation earlier. We already do missions. We already spend money in these areas, and it is biblical that the mission project is supposed to start at home.
Our Jerusalem.
Absolutely, our Jerusalem is what we're saying. And so if we would just take those resources, we were just having this conversation to just allocate some of the things that we're already doing abroad and do it here. Because I think it's a shame that we would be taking care of people abroad and not take care of our own. And so if we could just take some of those mission dollars that I'm sure Dennis is doing, myself and Pastor Gail, you're doing, if we just took just a small portion. And the night that we were out with the homeless, my quote to James was, I think that we can eradicate the problem, but it's going to take all of us doing it together. It is a faith-based led initiative, but we're going to need everyone involved. We're going to need all communities, black, white. We're going to need Democrat, Republican. We're going to need the church, and we're also going to need the community. We're going to need businesses. This is going to take, for us to fix this in Rocky Mount, it's going to take everyone. And no one can stand alone and do this. We can't do this alone. So I just urge everyone to buy into this whole possible solution that we can get rid of. I don't want another child. Last week we were at 8-9 degrees. Just imagine how many people were in trouble in that situation and what they did just to survive. Right.
Dennis, your church made a commitment in building the new building to stay downtown. And can you share with us the thought process in that?
Yeah, I would like to take some credit for that, but they made that decision
We'll
before I arrived. I could maybe steal it a little bit, right? They did, and it was a strategic commitment, a biblically informed decision to stay in downtown Rocky Mount. Our church wanted to say to the larger community, we believe in our city, we care deeply for our city. We care deeply for downtown. And, you know, if I could just be candid and frank, First Baptist Church, Rocky Mount, I love my church. We are still largely Anglo-Saxon. We are Caucasian for the most part. I would love to see that change over time until, as I said at James Church last Tuesday, until the church down here starts looking like the church up there, we haven't yet really understood what Christ is after, you know. And so, yeah, we are downtown. We're committed to staying downtown. We're committed to doing a number of things, and we're already behind Chris and all that's going on there. We want to do a lot more. So, yeah, we're here. We're here for the long haul.
And I just want to, just say something regarding Chris and his staff, because we live in a society of self-preservation where people don't want to do certain things for fear of working them, for fear of losing my job. And he's one of the few people that I've come across in a long time who is quick to say, I want to be put out of a job. No, we don't have to. Let's put this guy out of work, okay? And let's make a commitment. We'll help him find another job, but let's not let the job be worrying about homeless people.
Right.
And so let's find a way. Here's a person whose heart is big enough, who's saying, look, I want to work myself out of work, okay? And let's fix this problem, and let's put these resources in something else once we fix it. And so I really want to encourage you as you watch the segment. If you're a part of a church, talk to your pastor. Talk to your leaders. If you're not part of a church, talk to your association, your business, your fraternity, your sorority, the Masons, the Eastern Stars, whatever entity you're a part of. And then let's see if we can collectively come together and make a difference so that we don't have to do this kind of segment in 2015.
Well said.
Amen. With his help, it will happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
for watching.